the January 6th committee is wrapping up with a bang, and also a subpoena was issued for Donald Trump. Now, laying out an irrefutable case that Trump planned it all, the committee answers its own call to hold him fucking accountable for everything that he's ever done. Our nation cannot only punish the foot soldiers who stormed our Capitol, but those who planned to overturn our election and brought us to the point of violence must also be held accountable. In the opening statement of the final hearing, or possible final hearing of the last House of January 6th committee before the midterms, and perhaps the last one, period, Liz Cheney, the no longer exactly Republican Congresswoman from Wyoming, had laid out the stakes. Donald Trump was the central cause of January 6th, she said, and not just the inspiration of it. Over the next couple of hours, the committee carefully painted a picture of Trump as a conductor who had brought many different forces together and forged an insurrection, or a Klan one, as I would like to call it, and yes, various other people, longtime Trump lackeys and sycophants like Roger Stone and Steve Bannon, evidently act as the go-betweens, translating Trump's desires for a Klan insurrection to the extremely the online right-wing goons he needed to actually do the thing. From the beginning to the end, this was Trump's plan all along. He tried to declare that the election was rigged or stolen, which there was no evidence to provide on that, even before votes were cast or counted, and to use those bogus accusations as excuses for his judicial appointees to steal it all for him, which backfired on him. And when that didn't work, he turned to every Republican that he could all over the country, trying to badger or coerce them into falsifying or invalidating the election results. And when that didn't work either, Trump tried to move on to his biggest and most audacious plan. He unleashed a violent Klan mob on the Capitol, and to quite likely show up in person to claim that crown. He was unable to break through the security bureaucracy, and very likely his own cowardice enough, and he was actually, because he's a coward, and it was enough to actually try to get that done. But new evidence that was introduced on Thursday demonstrated that Trump's vision involved him actually standing at the head of his violent maggot army in a cosplay update of Benito Mussolini's March on Rome. And basically we have left no doubt and none that Donald Trump led an effort to upend American democracy that directly resulted in the violence of January 6th committee chairman Representative Benny Thompson had said in the closing argument. And so, with deliberate sobriety and very little fanfare, the committee ended its possibly final hearing with a unanimous vote to subpoena Donald Trump. Cheney's words wasn't just empty rhetoric or impotent flailing against a recalcitrant Attorney General Merrick Garland, who seems determined to slow walk this process until he's out of office or we're all fucking dead, whichever comes fucking first. In its vote to issue a subpoena to the most recent ex-squatter, the committee is attempting to live up to the immortal words from Spider-Man: "To those with great power comes great responsibility." Or in other words, pull on your big kid pants and do something about Trump and his imitators and followers before he and they strike again. Now, this hearing offered another riveting spectacle. Along with an overwhelming amount of evidence that Donald Trump is fucking guilty as charged, the committee did their best to keep things crisp and organized, using both what they identified as Trump's 7-point plan to overthrow the election and a straightforward timeline. Two arguments stood out as those likely to sway timid centrists and normies who remain unwilling to accept that this really did happen in the US of A. Now, first, the committee made the case for extensive premeditation. Trump and others plotted for months to steal the election, and well before it happened. And second, the committee provided even more evidence that Trump envisioned himself as the leader and figurehead of the Klan mob he incited. Now, with the latter point in place, it's definitely a sore spot for Trump defenders, and more energy has been put into denying that Trump wanted to march on the Capitol himself than into refuting any other allegation leveled by the committee. Now, maybe that's because picturing and accepting that reality makes it unmistakable that Trump was the leader of the Klan insurrection in every meaningful sense. The defeated squatter showing up in person to oversee the overthrow of democracy is undeniable and arresting and a dramatic image. Ironically, that's no doubt why Trump spent hours trying to make it happen, as the committee persuasively contends. Now, with Representative Zoe Lofgren, as she put it, Trump's plan to declare the election fraudulent was intentional it was premeditated, and we know that it was not based on election results because he and the sycophants were bragging about it both in public and behind closed doors. Footage of Stone and Bannon gleefully congratulating themselves on the supposed brilliance of the plan has already made headlines, but it's also worth remembering Trump was seeding this conspiracy theory for months and really for years long before the 2020 election. Now, while there's not exactly a smoking gun, such as video or signed statement in which Trump orders the Capitol riots, at this point, it takes concentrated and willful denial not to believe that Trump's explicit plan going into January 6th. The committee established the links between Trump, Stone, and the leaders of groups like the Oath Keepers and Proud Pricks, and many of whom have been indicted or convicted of seditious conspiracy. The committee members brought forward evidence that rioters talked as if they were getting orders from Trump, albeit filtered through intermediaries. They showed Jason Miller, a key Trump campaign nutlicker, sharing a link to a site where violence was openly being plotted and gloated about how successful Team Trump's efforts were, and they weren't really successful. But let's suspend our disbelief for a second and say, okay, maybe this was not a conspiracy. Maybe this is all just a remarkable million monkeys coincidence, in which thousands of people independently came to the same conclusion at the same time without any direction or guidance. But remember the axiom: when you hear the sound of hooves, assume horses, not fucking zebras. Now, while the committee's focus on Thursday was about building the public case for issuing a subpoena to Donald Trump, it has not abandoned the project of pressuring Garland and the Department of Justice to deal with Trump as they would any other criminal with handcuffs. Or, okay, more likely with an indictment leading to a negotiated surrender and an immediate release on bail, probably paid for by his PAC suckers, donors. In her opening remarks, Cheney pointedly reminded viewers that Congress lacks the authority to charge Trump with any crimes, because that's the DOJ's job. But she also pointed out, likely as much to Garland as the public, that DOJ officials swear to uphold the Constitution just as members of Congress do. Now, Cheney's fucking frustration was palpable, but it's worth noting that during the hearing, news came down that Supreme Court has rejected Trump's efforts to shut down or delay the DOJ investigation of the classified documents that Trump had illegally stashed over at Mar-a-Lago and that he took great plans to conceal from investigators. In all fairness, Garland's team has been aggressively fighting and largely defeating Trump's attempts to get away with that set of probable crimes. So it's at least somewhat reasonable to hope that Garland is not in fact a stone wall who will never allow a former squatter to be indicted, no matter how many ludicrous crimes that the squatter committed. We still don't know what's in those classified documents, but even if it's extremely bad, and we're hearing it's nuclear intel bad, it's unlikely to exceed a lead fascist insurrection bad. But perhaps future historians will be showing this for years on a qualitative debate over the relative evils of sedition versus treason. Now, for now, what we know is that the January 6th committee has taken its best shot. Donald Trump needs to be held to account. If no one else is stepping up, they're going to do their best. And so if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just as little as a few bucks a month, your donation can help go a long way, and thanks for listening.